So you're now at the point that you've hopefully written your introduction and your first body paragraph. So this next step, body paragraph 2, should be really easy. But I think this is a good time to go over a few reminders as far as the essay as a whole. So when we're in this post, first of all, I want you to notice that I have your due dates on here and that the whole essay is due next Wednesday. Now, if you click on this document, Raymond's Run essay, this goes over what you should have in each paragraph. And it also gives you an idea of how lengthy each paragraph should be by giving you some sentence ranges. Well, I'll make it bigger in a moment, but we can start. So this is the prompt. There we go. This is the prompt that you're writing about. How does Toni Cade Bambara develop her theme through the use of a dynamic character in Raymond's Run? And so the claim that you're making is that the main character, Squeaky, is dynamic. And you're proving that by talking about her before trait and then how the climax changes her and she has the opposite after trait. But then you're also extending that. Why does she actually have that dynamic character? Well, it's to develop her theme. So if you haven't come up with a theme yet, then we've got a problem since you've already written your introduction. So I want you to make sure you double check your thesis in your first paragraph and make sure it's covering all of your paragraphs. So it should cover the trait that's in your first body paragraph, the trait that you're about to talk about in your second body paragraph, and then the theme that you're going to discuss in your last paragraph. So your first paragraph is the introduction, and you want to double check. You've got your hook, make sure it's following a technique, and in most cases it shouldn't mention Raymond's Run or Squeaky at all. So if it does, you might need to see me and get some help. Your bridge should connect the hook to the thesis and then also include some summary. If you watched my intro video, I asked you to talk, briefly about basics in the exposition, just the initial situation, definitely the conflict, certainly the climax and the resolution. But it should be short, a very short summary, just enough, again, to give us an idea of the plot if we haven't read the actual story. Okay, so then you have your thesis, and your thesis must assert that Squeaky became a dynamic character, mentioning the specific attributes you claim in your body paragraphs, and that the author used this technique to develop a theme. Be sure that you name the author and title of the work somewhere in this paragraph. So just a reminder, the title should be in quotation marks because it's a short story, and then you have your author's name. That just needs to be somewhere in the paragraph, whether you incorporate it in the thesis or the bridge, that's up to you. And use the model to help you. So you've written paragraph 2. This paragraph focuses on Squeaky before her attitude changed. It has to have your topic sentence, which we showed you in the model in the last video. It has to have your 2 quotes. You have to cite your quote. And of course, your quotation would be in quotation marks. And then you have to have that good explanation for each quote, which, if you remember when you did your evidence elaboration chart, you took your original explanation and you developed it further. And then you have a transition sentence. So it might be a good time to pause and go back and make sure you have somewhere around 7 to 9 sentences. So all we're doing for paragraph 3 is really the same thing. This time we're focusing on how she was after her attitude change. It has to have a topic sentence, which should certainly specifically name the trait that you're proving she has after the climax. It has to have your 2 quotes. The quote must be cited properly with the page number, period on the outside, and quotation marks. You have to explain the quotes well. It's really the most important part. And you won't need a transition sentence because it should naturally, when you explain the theme, it should naturally connect to your paragraph 3. And we're going to talk about this later, but What you're going to want to do, of course, is go into your after organizer, and hopefully you've copied and pasted from your evidence elaboration back into your after organizer so that everything you need is in one place. If not, you're going to have to pull up all 3 pages, your essay document, your chart, and your evidence elaboration. But you should be able to pull your info from here. I talked about wrapping in the last video. And again, if you're someone especially who is moving through this pretty quickly, this isn't overly difficult, I really insist that you wrap. But you would just take the quotes and then think about how to begin them with your own words. And I'm going to show you an example as I read through the second body paragraph. So I don't have the fastest internet here, I'm sure you can tell. And there we go. And don't forget, while this is loading, you've got this really great transition resource here that I went over in the last video. Really make sure you pull that up and utilize it, but don't throw transitions in just to throw them in. Throw them in to make the paragraph flow, to help, once again, the reader understand the relationship between one piece of information and another. Take a moment. I've noticed as I've looked at some of your papers, some of you are not formatting your dates correctly. It should look just like mine in the order because that is MLA format. Sorry, my internet is terrible. Here we go. So this is my Grinch essay. As a result of the climax, the Grinch has a change of heart and becomes pleasant. There's my topic sentence. For example, on Christmas morning, the Grinch expects to hear cries coming from Whoville because he had taken all of their gifts the night before. Unexpectedly, he hears the Who singing happily, even though their streets and houses are empty of their precious gifts and decorations. It is at this moment that the Grinch realizes that Christmas is not about the things such as presents and decorations. It's about the people. His values change. The Grinch thinks, maybe Christmas doesn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas, perhaps, means a little bit more. The anger and meanness that existed in the Grinch's heart melt away as the sweet voices of the Whos ring out through the air. A pleasant feeling overcomes the Grinch as he realizes the true meaning of the Christmas celebration. Moreover, on Christmas morning, as the Grinch listens to the Whos singing, he finds that Christmas is as much a spirit as it is tangible items. Therefore, in the spirit of the moment, the Grinch decides to return all of the Whos' presents, decorations, and food. He no longer wishes to hurt the Whos in Whoville. The Grinch becomes pleasant, and the minute his heart didn't feel quite so tight, he whizzed with his load through the bright morning light, and he brought back the toys and the food for the feast. I want to pause for a second, because I want you to notice how I wrapped this one. If we can incorporate the quote as just an extension of the sentence, then you don't have to put a comma and you don't have to capitalize the beginning of the quote. But if you're introducing it as though it's being said, if you're introducing it like we did up here, it is the comma and the capitalization. So on to the explanation. The pleasant feeling that overcomes the Grinch on that Christmas morning urges him to return all of the stolen gifts and participate in his first Christmas celebration. In turn, the Grinch soon finds himself partaking in his first roast beef dinner with the Whos down in Whoville. This dinner is a symbol of his reintegration into the community, which is evidence of a true change of heart. I wonder if you noticed, as I was reading, I added a comma, I added an article, and I've read over this a couple of times. If you're not rereading your paragraphs over and over, I guarantee you are missing errors that you would catch otherwise. It is imperative that you take the time to proofread, that you read over and over and you catch your errors. This should be your best work, and that's not going to be the case if you're not taking your time and proofreading. Well, I'm about out of time for my Screencastify, so I think this is a good point to stop, but you can go into the model and check out my transitions and my wraps at any time.